Hey guys, this is Free and Clear, and I am trying to find a steel man's argument for why Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. I'm kind of getting a stone wall on YouTube, not because of anything YouTube's doing, but because legacy media, CNN, ABC, CBS, they're all saying these things in their titles about why Trump is a threat to democracy, but then the videos themselves don't actually show anything or say anything of substance. Um, Literally just kind of feelings and stuff. So I'm trying to get something that can actually articulate something. So I'm trying BBC News. This is called "Is Donald Trump a Threat to U.S. Democracy?" So I'm hoping that this is good content. Let's see what results.
US election is in November, and President Biden has this warning.
Donald Trump's campaign is obsessed with the past, not the future.
He's literally talking about Donald Trump, which I guess is the future. I'll give him that.
He's willing to sacrifice our democracy.
Bold claim. Why is that true?
Put himself in power.
Donald Trump is
What? He's trying to be president? That's why he's a threat to democracy? Okay. Let's see if they keep going.
favorite to be the Republican presidential nominee, and he's firing Joe Biden's accusation back at him.
Now we have a president who's a great danger to democracy. He really is. He is a danger to democracy, and at a level like few people have seen.
Trump's not providing.
To be fair, Trump also isn't giving a reason why Biden is a threat to democracy. It's just kind of assumed in his speech. But this is also cut by the BBC. So I'm hoping they have something substantive to say why Trump is wrong and why Biden's right. Curious.
Provided convincing evidence to support this claim, but his own actions raise questions about his impact on US democracy.
Here we go.
Not least his false claim that the 2020 presidential election was stolen from him.
So he believes that the 2020 election was stolen from him, and that makes him a threat to democracy. Well, I don't know that I've ever heard anyone call Hillary Clinton a threat to democracy, but she also doesn't think that she lost the 2016 election to Donald Trump, and that he cheated, Russian collusion, but for some reason she's not a threat to democracy, or wasn't a threat to democracy at the time, or is now. By claiming that, I don't know. Okay, all right. So he's a threat to democracy because he has a belief that you don't agree with. That's cool.
A claim we heard the day after voting finished.
This is a case where they're trying to steal an election. They're trying to rig an election, and we can't let that happen.
The election wasn't rigged, but again and again.
It's a claim. Wasn't rigged. I mean, what do you mean by that? I mean, the Electoral College voted, states executed their voting to the way they did. The fact that we have anonymous voting makes it difficult to track votes. And then Pennsylvania didn't follow its own voting laws. There was a big Supreme Court issue, so Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, and execution of voting and when they could be counted versus not counted, what was still valid, and when postmarks were allowed. And then there was also Georgia, which looked like it had ballot harvesting. Perhaps does that mean it was enough to steal it? Probably not. But I mean, was it? But there's voter fraud every election. Was that enough to tip the scales? And I guess when's enough? When's that metric, the magic metric, where it was stolen or it wasn't stolen? I don't know. But it's clearly something BBC disagrees with.
And again, Donald Trump falsely claimed US democracy had failed to function.
The U.S. is a constitutional republic. That's kind of grating on me a little bit. So we're not a democracy, but yeah, all right, sure. Yeah, okay, so disagreeing that the 2020 election was fine is a threat to democracy. Or, right, I said that right? Yeah.
Weeks later, on January the 6th, just as lawmakers prepared to certify Joe Biden's victory, Trump held a rally in Washington, D.C., and again said the election was rigged. Less than 2 hours later, his supporters stormed Congress. 3 years on,
some guys, this is a video, by the way, it's like mild parkour and some guys running up some steps. I mean, it was a riot, don't get me wrong, but I'm probably gonna be really frustrated by what they say next. But let's see.
Donald Trump faces criminal charges that allege a wide-ranging conspiracy to overturn the results of the election.
Let's see. That is, I think, the case that they're following or talking about when they say this specifically is the Fani Willis, Georgia case, which is very problematic, and I suggest you look into it. But so this is a 7-month-old video, and let's just say that case did not turn well for Democrats. I'll give you the long and the short of it. That Fani Willis was using that phone call from that Trump made to elected official to like, hey, find the votes, like find where they are. Could you say, and they're saying that like, oh, he was trying to tell them to make up votes and to steal the election or something like that. Now, what makes it interesting is that no DA in Georgia would touch the thing except for this one DA named Fani Willis. But it didn't go well for her because it just happened as they were going through the course of trial. They started realizing, hey, wait a second, your special counsel, Nathan Wade, which she hired, also had a relationship with Fani Willis. And so he, in essence, was a state government contractor that Fani Willis was giving money to. She was giving money to her boyfriend, and it came out that she was receiving benefits from Nathan Wade. So they were going on trips together, spending a bunch of money, and then she argued, oh no, those weren't gifts. Those we went 50-50 on everything. And what did she say? She said, oh, she pays in cash. Is what her defense was, that she pays in cash. There's no receipts. There's nothing to track. But then they pulled up phone data when they said that, oh yeah, we weren't dating then. We were dating from X time to X time. And the phone records proved that wasn't correct. And so the judge in Georgia was like, all right, we'll let this proceed if you fire Nathan Wade. So it was like a couple months of that. This was like earlier this year, like this is 2024. And finally, the judge let it proceed. But then the counsel, because there was like 4 or 5 different defense attorneys representing different clients that Fani Willis was bringing charges against. And anyway, they one of them made a case, and the appellate court in Georgia said agreed to hear the petition that one of them made, saying, hey, Fani Willis has proven that she's not ethical, and that she's and potentially saying that they're prosecuting Trump for political personal gain, which the Nathan Wade and relationship kind of fueled, and that she's doing this for political reasons, she's doing this for financial gain and all this. And so that originally was supposed to be settled and done, not settled, but it was supposed to be decided before the election, but it completely blew up in everyone's face. It was an unforced error, and Democrats don't have that case anymore. So the case he's talking about in Georgia at the time wasn't dead, but now is. I mean, it's not dead in the sense that that it's maybe not eventually going to proceed, but there's a very solid chance that the appellate court of Georgia is going to say that Fani Willis cannot be the prosecutor on this case. And so then it would be up to other district attorneys in Georgia to pick up that case and do something with it. But I don't think there's political will to do that. And so there's a very good chance that if Fani Willis is taken off of the case, that the thing just dies. So, of course, Mr. 7 month ago BBC guy doesn't know that, but we know that being in the present. But anyway, kind of funny. But what he's saying is now overcome by events and factually not true. So he's not a threat to democracy, or he is. I mean, he's not embattled in the lawsuit anymore because Fani Willis was unethical with how she was spending the state's money.
But despite this, despite his election claims being rejected by judges and election officials, still, Trump continues his attack on the credibility of America's democratic institutions.
Freaking representative republic, like constitutional republic. We're not a democracy, but all right, fine.
But if you go to his campaign website, you'll find this pitch to voters.
So the pitch is dismantle the deep state and reclaim our democracy. All right.
Here's my plan to dismantle the deep state and reclaim our democracy from Washington corruption once and for all.
To Trump, the deep state's a network of government bureaucrats working to obstruct him and his policies. And Trump's plan to deal with this involves Trump having more power. The New York Times.
I have a big problem with that line of reasoning. So let me explain to you how government regulation currently works. Bear with me. So the legislature, Congress, doesn't like passing unpopular laws. They're the most susceptible to being voted out, right? Especially in the House of Representatives. In the Senate, they have 6-year terms. In the House, they have 2-year terms. And so every 2 years, they're constantly having to explain themselves why they voted a certain way, whatever. And Congress kind of has this desire to not have to vote on hard things. And so what they'll do to kind of get around that is that they'll give authority to the executive branch to create rules and regs that have the power and force of law, despite rules and regs not actually having been decided in Congress. I personally think that's terrible, but to give you an example so you know what I'm talking about is the EPA would be a good example, where there's some laws that we're beholden to as citizens of the U.S. that we have to follow EPA's guidelines and regulations, but none of those regulations actually passed through Congress. They just kind of got a broad authority, and EPA is completely handled under the executive branch, under the presidency, and they can politically appoint people. So to say that Trump's a threat to democracy because he's going to change politically appointees to his own political appointees, that's what every president does. Every president appoints their own political appointees, and if Congress has a problem with that, with the president having too much power, maybe they shouldn't give him so much power. Sorry, I pulled a Joe Biden there. Didn't mean to whisper to you, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's Congress's fault that the president has so much power. They ceded their authority to the executive branch, and now there's a bunch of 3 other agencies running around that can make up rules and regs on the fly, and they have the full force of the law, when literally that's not their role. That was never meant to be a thing that our Constitution accepted. So yeah, it's like, yeah, he's going to come in, he's going to pick his own political appointees. He's going to be smart about how much he removes and plucks, because now he knows firsthand how much 3-letter agencies can make him not have a good time.
Times has reported that the former president and his backers aim to strengthen the power of the White House and limit the independence of federal agencies.
Strengthen the power of the White House, bro. Like, you mean like every president for like the past century has been trying to strengthen the power of the White House? Like they don't like being told no by Congress or the courts. Like, I mean, even FDR was threatening the Supreme Court of the United States, that saying that if they struck down the New Deal, he would stack the court. Like threats like presidents don't like being told no. So yeah, they've been trying to bring amalgamate more power into the executive branch. This is a new thing. Is it wrong? Yeah, but literally every president does it. And if it wasn't a threat to democracy when Biden or first Trump term or Obama or Bush, I mean, they all try to do the same thing. So, okay, big deal. Ooh, all right.
This comes in various forms. Here's one.
First, I will immediately reissue my 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to remove rogue bureaucrats, and I will wield that power very aggressively.
He wants people that agree with him on policy to be in positions that make policy. Is that a threat to democracy, or is that a consequence of an election? Yeah, you be the judge.
This would allow the president to remove thousands of career civil servants and replace them with loyalists.
Yeah. Elections have consequences, right? That's what I understood. That's how that works. You get to put people in places of authority when you win elections.
Donald Trump and his people want to be...
I totally thought that was a lady. Not, I guess it's bald. They're bald, but it's just very pleasant eyes. I don't know.
much more effective in enacting policies than they were the last time around. They don't want their policies to be undermined by non-political or non-appointed government workers.
A process to find potential replacements is already underway. It's part of what's called Project 2025.
What? Oh my gosh. Project 2025? I guess, like, all right, so for those of you guys that don't know, Project 2025 is a policy plan by the Heritage Foundation, which is a think tank. It's been around for decades. I don't know. I want to say they started in '78. Like they've been around for a long time, but and conservative people. I mean, honestly, I probably agree more with Project 2025 than I do with Trump. Honestly, because Trump's not super conservative, but he's more of a moderate dude that's just kind of bombastic. But he's gonna change civil servants, and it's coming underway through a policy proposal from the Heritage Foundation. Like, does the Heritage Foundation provide names of who they want? Maybe it does. I haven't read it. It's like 900 pages. I mean, it's actually smaller than some laws that Congress passes, but you know what I mean. It's a big thing.
Dozens of conservative organizations have produced a plan for a
Literally, the Heritage Foundation. I mean, I'm sure they stole policies from other people, I guess. Kind of copied it because they sound good, but sure.
new Republican presidency.
What we're doing is systematically preparing to march into office and bring a new army of aligned, trained, and essentially weaponized conservatives ready to do battle against the deep state.
The idea
Again, they want people that want to follow their policies to follow policies and dismantle red tape. I'm not shocked here. I'm not seeing the threat to democracy. And just to take that for a second. Like, hold on, you're telling me that unelected bureaucrats from three-letter agencies under the executive branch are democratic in nature? Like, does that make sense to you? Like you're like people that weren't elected by anyone and removing them from that position is a threat to democracy. What? Okay, sure.
is that this marching, weaponizing and battling will be done at huge scale. Axios reports Project 2025 aims to install a pre-vetted pro-Trump army of up to 54,000 loyalists.
So just for your awareness, like, the government has millions of employees. So this is making, I mean, it's a dent. It's a good dent. 54, let's say, I want to say it's probably closer to 5 million federal employees that exist. It might be more, but let's say it's 5 for easy numbers. We're at 50,000 loyalists that they're saying. So that's, what's 1% of 5 million? 500,000, or 10% is 500,000. 10% of that is 50,000. So 1%. They want to change 1% of the federal workforce. That's a threat to democracy. Sure, they're all in leadership positions, so that's fair, but that's kind of the point, right? I mean, the spoil system, for those of you guys who don't remember from history class, like, that's kind of what happened, is that every presidency, like, they'd be like, and all of you are out, and let's put in all our people. Like, it literally happened for the first, I forget when the spoil system, the spoil system still exists to this day, but it got pared down so that there was at least, some continuity of people. But I don't remember when that happened. It definitely happened, I think. It was probably somewhere in the 1800s. But the point is that, again, 1% of the workforce would change.
Across government. That figure's not been confirmed, but it's worth putting it in context.
In the United States, we already have 4,000 political appointees, and if you compare that to any other democracy in the world, it's a large number.
In other words,
hold on, you compare that to any other democracy in the world? Okay, all right. And so this is the sleight of hand I'm talking about. Like, we're the third largest country in the world. Like, I know we're so much smaller than China and India, and we are. We're like a third in India's case, and probably like a fourth in China's case. But we're the third largest country, like, standalone country. We're gonna have more political appointees than other places, right? Just by raw numbers. So unless we're talking about percentages or something, but I expect we're not that high either. But you notice that they didn't run the math on that or give you context that, we're the biggest country in the world, so our numbers should be bigger, presumably, right? I mean, China's not a democracy, right? Despite what their name says. And India's super bureaucratic and has tons of red tape, if you don't know that. So I suspect their numbers much higher as a percentage even. But yeah, just keep that in context.
to go from 4,000 to potentially tens of thousands of political appointees would take the US well beyond other Western democracies.
Other Western democracies are smaller than the US, bro. Like, when they say other Western democracies, what are they talking about? They're talking about Europe. Like, like, do you even know, like, all right, so for you guys don't know, just population wise, like land mass wise, Europe and the US are about the same size, but of course Europe is a bunch of countries. And population wise though, they are twice the density. If you count all of Europeans and compare them to the total number of Americans, they're about it's 2 to 1. There's twice as many Europeans that are Americans, but they have tons of sovereign federal governments throughout. Like, I want to say, I don't know, how many EU countries are there? It's like 30. I don't know. This is a ton, but so this doesn't hold water for me. It's like, oh, when compared to other democracies, our number's the highest. It freaking should be. We're the biggest country in, like, comparatively in the Western world. Like, what the deuce? Okay.
And it would not be merit that would define employment, but rather your loyalty to the winner of the presidency.
A political appointee would be a political appointee. Wild.
That would not only threaten our democracy, but
You're threatening democracy with political appointees, people that aren't elected. What? Like, it's like, oh no, we don't want you to change our political appointees for your political appointees. That's a threat to democracy. No, it's not. That's you trying to make me feel bad for winning. Like, what? Like, it's not a threat to democracy.
truly undermine the ability of our government to meet the pressing needs that it has to deal with very real problems.
Let me tell you, if you've ever worked for the federal government, there's a lot of fat to cut. But okay, like what needs exactly do you think the federal government's doing that would immediately collapse the United States if it wasn't met? Like, outside of the DoD, like what? I'm curious.
Problems.
In response to media reports about Project 2025, the Trump campaign team released a statement saying the efforts by various non-profit groups are certainly appreciated and can be enormously helpful. However, none of these groups or individuals speak for President Trump or his campaign.
Hey, look, this thing that a think tank did isn't necessarily what I believe. Weird. Like, honestly, I wouldn't even known about Project 2025 if it wasn't for, like, the left-wing media just kind of come bombarding me in my face with it. Like, and never want to talk, bro. Like, have you looked at Harris's campaign? Like, there's no policies on there. None. Like, and these guys won't even look at the Trump website to see what policies he has. What's going on, man?
That may be, but having the ability to replace civil servants is what Trump wants, as is his ambition to expand presidential powers elsewhere. Take them.
It's not the executive branch's fault that the legislative branch ceded its authority to the executive branch. All right? Like, it's not. It's not. And if you do cede power from the legislative branch to the executive, remember that someone that you don't want in the executive branch might get into the executive branch and not do things you want them to do. So if you don't want that to happen, stop ceding your power to the executive branch. That's how that works. And it's not a threat to democracy to throw in people that agree with you and be more intentional about that. Like, I don't know, man.
Federal departments and agencies. Already the president appoints the heads of many of these, but some government agencies are independent, and Trump wants to change that.
They're all under the executive branch. They're under the executive branch. Like, independent from what? That's like saying, when you're in the media, you have to be unbiased. Like, there's not one of you, media or person that's listening to this, or anyone in the world that's unbiased. Like, everyone has biases. And bias isn't bad. It might help you find something faster than it would another person who's not biased towards that thing, and might make it more difficult for you to see something that goes against your bias as true. But what? Just saying that it's going to reduce independence, or it's going to mess up the executive branch. Again, if you don't want the executive branch to have these powers, like, there's a quick way to fix that. Go to the legislative branch and remove those powers from the executive. It's actually really easy. You can even override vetoes to keep President Donald Trump from messing with you. So
I will bring the independent regulatory agencies such as the FCC and the FTC
I can't stand either of those, just full disclosure.
back under presidential authority as the Constitution demands.
I don't know why they weren't under presidential authority to begin with. Like, the Federal Communications, I forget what the other C is. I don't come to me. But then the, what did he say, FTC? FTC, was it transportation? or is that, or D as in Delta? I don't know, but whatever. They should. They were granted. They were given. They run out of the executive branch because they execute the laws of Congress, right?
Such a move would be unusual. These are agencies normally apart from politics.
But they're not. You might remember the FCC. It's the Federal Communications Commission, I think. But net neutrality was a big deal like 10 years ago. People were like, "Oh, we gotta get rid of, we gotta have net neutrality and all this." But it's totally partisan. It was like there's 5 people on that commission, 5 voting people, and 3 of them would be the winning party or the ruling party in the presidency, and 2 of them would be the minority party in that presidency. And that happens. Like those are political appointees already. But it sounds like he would just be able to decide things in addition to just leaving it up to a 5 bureaucrat commission.
But this push for more presidential power isn't a surprise.
And what do you think the FCC is going to do in your life, by the way? Like, what power do they have that's going to threaten your ability to freedom, liberty? Like, what's the FCC going to do? Like, you're like, okay, all right, sure.
Because Trump has a long-held belief that the US Constitution gives the president full power over all parts of government.
All parts under the executive branch? Yeah, that's how it works. There's only 3 branches, man. It's judicial, legislative, executive. If it doesn't fall under those 3, it shouldn't be in the federal government. Like, it shouldn't exist. Like, it's got to fall under those. So you tell me, where's it supposed to be? What? Yeah, what?
He talked about this while in office.
Then I have an Article 2 where I have the right to do whatever I want as president, but I don't even talk about that.
This interpretation of...
I mean, I suspect there was context to that statement. He's probably meant whatever I want in regard to something, is what I imagine he meant. I don't know, because I cut the clip, but, context. That's for the birds.
...of the Constitution is strongly contested, as is another claim made in 2022. After, again, saying the last election was stolen, Donald Trump posted, "A massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles."
Maybe they give context.
"Even those found in the Constitution."
Yeah, I mean, that's not a good look. I don't know what he's referring to specifically, or what wrong needs to be righted that would have to go above and beyond the Constitution. Well, let's listen to that again.
"For the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution."
I mean, technically speaking, I guess that's correct. That if, we can call to make a new Constitution, in the event that we believe the existing Constitution failed. But I doubt that's what he was talking about. But yeah, he's just being bombastic in my mind. He's just saying like, there's a lot of cheating going on here, and we need to get to the bottom of it because truth matters above everything else, I think is what he's trying to say. But I don't know. I mean, it doesn't look great, but I'm sure he was responding to something. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe he was just saying it.
"The termination of all articles of the Constitution,"
which, by the way, he can't do. Like, he would immediately be impeached and removed from office. So impeachment and removal from office are 2 different things. But yeah, he would immediately be impeached, and the Constitution Republic would live on because, the legislative branch, they can be cowards when it comes to leaving themselves susceptible to being reelected. But, I mean, you're going to tell me that Congress is going to look at President Trump like, hey, you can't do that. And he's going to be like, yes, I can. It's like, we're going to impeach you and remove you from office. Like, that would happen immediately. Like, why? Like, if he really did that. And not to mention that, like President Biden has put in some laws that he knew was unconstitutional and was going to get struck down, but wanted to do it anyway for political clout. But that's not a threat to democracy, to execute laws incorrectly and wait until lawsuits are formed against you and then decided by the courts to tell you that you're out of line. That's not a threat to democracy. And I'm talking about like the individual mandate that was given to private companies through OSHA, which was never meant to handle anything like that. There was the student forgiveness that was ruled unconstitutional, that he was doing the blanket student forgiveness. And he knew it was unconstitutional. Like, he was told and briefed that it was unconstitutional, and he went ahead with them anyway. And then they eventually got struck down. And yeah, that's not a threat to democracy. Sure.
Justified by a false claim of a stolen election. That feels
So you can see you don't have to follow the Constitution if there's a stolen election, I guess, is the claim, and it's fueled by that. He just disagrees with you, it sounds like, and you're just annoyed. Like,
feels relevant as we assess Trump's impact on U.S. democracy. So does his
Constitutional Republic.
desire to use the presidency to settle scores.
Hold up. Wait a minute. You're saying that Trump's going to want to use the presidency to settle scores? Like, and you're just not going to, like, talk about how Biden's FBI raided Trump's home in Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida, because of classified documents when he was a president, which means he was allowed to declassify documents because he was the head of the DOD, right? You're not going to talk about how Fani Willis and I think it was Alistair Bragg in New York, who was prosecuting Trump as well on another case, trying to get him, well, get a felony, but it'll probably get appealed and maybe overturned, probably overturned, and how those prosecutors met at the White House, like, recorded, like we have, like, there's sheets, like they signed in and stuff, and like we know they were there, but that wasn't trying to get after Trump and trying to stop him from being voted on. Like, not like he was actively trying to just say he was a felon because they thought that would poll well, which is something that Biden's known for, obviously, is to do things because they sound great. So we're not going to talk those political hit jobs where he's trying to, like, make Trump not able to campaign, where you had to show up every Wednesday in New York for a court case. And it's hard to campaign when you have to show up in New York specifically, in a state that you're 100% not going to win as a Republican. Makes it hard to campaign, right? So those weren't political hit jobs or anything. But yeah, but Trump's going to do it to Biden. And let me tell you, like, I don't think he is, because Biden's not a threat, clearly. I mean, one debate and Biden's not running anymore. I mean, maybe for Hillary Clinton. No, I'm just kidding. I don't think she'd be worried. But for everyone's awareness, I feel great, and I have no suicidal thoughts, because Clinton's.
I will appoint a real special prosecutor to go after the most corrupt president in the history of the United States of America, Joe Biden.
And by the way, when the FBI raided Trump's home, the Merrick Garland, the Attorney General of the United States, appointed by Biden and confirmed in the Senate, appointed a special prosecutor to look at this case, who then had FBI raid Mar-a-Lago, Trump's home. And now he's saying he would look into Biden, which, honestly, I actually think he might have actually done something. During the vice presidency, when he was vice president, during the Obama years, his son was getting like $50,000 a month by a company in Ukraine called Burisma. And there's documented calls that we have where Hunter was saying, hey, I'm next to the big guy. Like, you better play, or you better pay by today, or whatever. Or, oh yeah, I already talked to the big man, and this is what it is. Or I think Biden took over the phone or something and said, yeah, hey, I already talked to Obama. I'm like, this is what it's going to be. And not to mention that Hunter Biden, despite having no artistic experience or experience in what Burisma was doing, I think was fuel or oil. And also, people are buying Hunter's paintings for like $500,000. Like, that's not shady at all. Not shady at all. It doesn't need to be looked into. It's just Trump being upset. He's upset at Biden. He's not really trying to find justice. There's nothing to see here. Biden's been great. Everything's done is legal and 100% above board. Yeah, okay.
And the entire Biden crime family.
This description's not based on evidence. And
What? Hold on. It's not based on evidence? That's crazy town. That's crazy town. Like, we have phone calls, records, Chinese officials named. Like, we know, like this isn't conspiracy, dude. Like, go look at, use Brave or DuckDuckGo or something else that's not Google, but like look this up. Like this isn't, I'm not spouting off at the mouth here. Like these are real things. But holy crap, no evidence. There's evidence of there's evidence of money being given and checks being written to the big man that they think was Biden, but then the kids were named by name in the Biden family. Like dude, it's sketchy. I recommend you look into it. But the fact that there's no evidence, crazy town, absolute crazy town. Like specifically in Burisma with what happened in Ukraine, Trump was asking during his own presidency, saying to look into the attorney that was fired from the government in Ukraine during the Obama presidency for looking into Burisma and their shady dealings. But somehow that turned on Trump, saying that, oh, he's looking to harm his political opponents, where he literally didn't send anyone to go after Biden or Obama or Hillary. He actually even threatened to do that to Hillary, but then didn't. But he didn't do it. He didn't send the FBI or the DOJ or anybody after Democrats, but Trump has been on the receiving end of being threatened with the FBI and the DOJ.
And this pattern of Trump threatening opponents with the law has become familiar. But that doesn't
Yeah, it has, because it's happened from Biden to Trump.
make it normal in American democracy.
Donald
That freaking shouldn't be normal.
Trump has come forward and said that he wants to use his own Justice Department to prosecute his political enemies.
They happen to be political enemies, but they're also looking pretty corrupt right now, like just based on what we know. And, you know, with like, and there hasn't been a full scale investigation and everything, but I don't think it's going to get better. But okay.
In the way that he feels he has been prosecuted politically by Joe Biden and Joe Biden's Justice Department. But that would be a significant break from American democratic traditions. And
It would be a significant break from Democratic traditions until Biden did it to Trump. So, but yes, go on.
and judicial traditions going back more than a century.
This week, Trump was asked about retribution. He said he won't have time for it if he's re-elected.
I mean, that checks out. He won't have time for retribution if he's reelected. I mean, he threatened to do it to Hillary and then didn't. Well, he didn't threaten directly. He was kind of a tacit. He said, Hillary had said something on the debate stage like, you don't want him in control of the DOJ or the law or the rule of law or anything like that. And then he quit back. He's like, yeah, because he'd be in jail. So was that really a threat? I mean, it was a pretty solid one-liner. But yeah, again, he didn't do it. Biden did. So keep that in mind.
Trump's also been sharing his view of American law and justice when referencing January the 6th.
Oh man, this is not gonna be a good argument, I don't think. But let's go.
Called the violent attack on the seat of U.S. democracy a beautiful day. He's called the hundreds who've been jailed for what happened hostages. None of this is a.
So if you look at January 6th, there's a lot of people that were arrested for not doing anything. In fact, one guy, the QAnon shaman guy, was literally like escorted around by cops. There's video of him telling people to go home and to stop and to leave the Capitol. But they didn't show that during his case or trial. I think now that I think about it, I feel like he had served his time. It was like 36 months. It was something crazy. Then he got on good behavior. And then they said that, he wasn't supposed to have been jailed on appeal because he had incompetent counsel. It was a long process, but it took years. But it's just now getting like exonerated and now expunged off his record, I think, if I recall. That's something you can look up, though. He had the QAnon shaman guy, I forget his name, but he had an interview with Viva Frey, Viva, Vivafrey, where he talks about this in detail. It's like 2 or 3 hours long. I think it's on Rumble, but it's worth a watch.
Affected Trump's viability as a potential Republican presidential nominee, nor has the torrent of falsehoods that he continues to pour into America.
So this guy's already like not super credible in my mind, but Trump's the one that's lying. But okay.
His political discourse. And so, as Republican candidates gather in Iowa and the formal process of selecting the nominee begins, Trump remains the man to beat. And at one recent event, there was a question for the crowd.
And you've been seeing what's going on. In the past few weeks, the radical left Democrats and their fake news allies have unveiled their newest hoax that Donald J. Trump and the Republican Party are a threat to democracy. Do you believe this?
Would you believe that? Donald Trump asks as his supporters laugh. For some who've watched Trump in recent years, the answer is yes, they would believe that. And they're not laughing.
Yeah, it's mainly because the left can't meme, if I'm honest. But yeah, some people believe that, and
I'm joined here at the DN.
and they'd be wrong. Is Trump a threat to democracy? Short answer, no. No, he's not. There's plenty of avenues to remove him if he turns out to be a dictator. But frankly, he hasn't had a lot taken down by a lot of decisions, as many decisions taken down by the court system as Biden has. And I don't even mean Supreme Court, which is stacked 6-3 currently conservative liberal, but I mean even at the appellate level as well. So, or the federal base court system. I forget what it's called. It's trial court? No, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but the point is that it's he's not, in my mind, a threat to democracy. And if we're going to hold a rubric where we compare apples to apples, Biden has done a lot of things that people are saying Trump will do already. So I think there might be a threat to democracy here, but I don't think it's what the left is saying. Anyway, I hope this video was helpful to you. It was a little cathartic for me to kind of break these arguments down, and I'm grateful that the BBC actually threw some coherent arguments around. But coherent as in understandable, not coherent as in believable. But yeah, I hope that's useful for you. Anyway, thanks, and have a good one.